Wrong move, Piccola. A full smile spread across his face as I pointed his own gun at his chest. He was standing in the bathroom doorway, towel low on his hips, water still tracing the ink on his skin, silver hair slicked back, steam curling behind him. My death grip on the gun didn't help my shaking hands. You actually left in the middle of our wedding and came back with blood on you? My voice was anything but steady. What did you expect, Mrs. D'Angelo? A honeymoon? A wedding night? You're going to give me a baby. He chuckled. Or what, Piccola? What if I refuse to touch you? His eyes dragged down my body, back up, slow, taunting. What will you do? Shoot me? My eyes darted down at my shaking hands, back at him. Oh, I was going to get my wedding night. Even if I had to cripple this man to take him to bed. I cocked the gun. I am not playing with you. You will give me a baby tonight. His head tilted. The amusement sharpened into curiosity. He stepped forward. I didn't lower the gun. Pull the trigger, Piccola. Another step. His eyes bright, alive. He was enjoying himself. I dare you. I dropped my aim to his thigh and pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Oh God, my life is over. His grin widened and he took slow, deliberate steps toward me. I backed up. 1 step, 2, eyes locked on his, terrified but refusing to look away. The backs of my knees hit the edge of the bed. He closed in, reaching for me. I flinched. But he gently closed a hand over mine and took the gun. His eyes searched my face. Oh, you'll have my baby. His voice dropped low. But when I touch you, it will be because you want me. It will be because you can't resist me. In your dreams, old man, I countered, though my voice lacked the sharpness I intended. A shadow flickered in his eyes at the defiance. He took one last step, closing the space between us. I was already pressed against the bed, nowhere left to go. He leaned down. His mouth found the side of my neck, warm, slow. His lips dragged across my skin right below my ear. My breath hitched. Without my permission, my chin tilted up. My neck arched, giving him more, and my eyes closed. My fingers gripped the bedsheet behind me. Then, just as suddenly, he stepped back. Cold air hit the wet spot on my neck. My eyes snapped open. That slow, mocking smile returned to his lips. Your room is the second door on the left. I didn't wait for a second invitation. I scrambled off the bed, gathered the heavy white silk of my wedding dress, and fled. My bare feet slapped against the floor as I hurried away from his shadow. Once inside the guest room, I threw myself against the door. My hand drifted to my neck, fingers trembling as they found the spot where his mouth had just been. My pulse was still hammering there. Welcome, dark romance lovers. If stories of forbidden love, dangerous mafia dons, and age gaps make your heart race, you're in the right place. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story. And tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. I love to know how far our stories reach. Now, back to Laura and Gio's story. 48 hours earlier, I had no idea my life was about to be turned upside down. The parking garage was empty at midnight. Just my Honda under the broken light that maintenance kept promising to fix, and 2 men standing beside it. Suits that didn't belong in this neighborhood. Hands clasped in front of them, patient. I stopped walking. 16 hours in the pediatric ER and my feet were screaming, but the exhaustion vanished the second I saw them. Miss Xeng, the taller one spoke first. Not a question. We need you to come with us. My keys bit into my palm. I don't think so. Your mother is Rachel Xeng, yes? The shorter one tilted his head. We have business to discuss. Regarding her financial situation. My mom. 11 missed calls I hadn't answered. The same mess I'd been cleaning up since I was 16. She sent you to collect from me? Rage cut through the fear. Tell her I said, this isn't a request, Miss Xeng. The taller one stepped closer. You can come willingly, or we can make this difficult. Either way, you're coming. A black SUV pulled up behind them, windows so dark I couldn't see inside. The back door opened. I got in the car. The warehouse smelled like fish and something chemical I couldn't name. Chinatown, deep in the blocks I'd avoided since I was 16. Broken streetlights, stained concrete, no witnesses. Vincent Lau sat behind a mahogany desk that didn't belong here. Polished, old, heavy, mid-60s, gray suit, gold rings on every finger, eyes that had watched things stop breathing and hadn't blinked. Laura Xeng. He didn't stand. Sit. I sat. Your mother owes me $400,000. The number hit me in the sternum. I'd known it was bad. I hadn't known it was catastrophic. She can't pay. Vincent folded his hands on the desk. Which means I'll start collecting in other ways. A finger first, then whatever else it takes until I'm satisfied. I don't have that kind of money. I know. He leaned forward. But you have something more valuable. He slid a photograph across the desk. A man outside a federal courthouse. Tall, broad shoulders, silver threading through dark hair. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at something off frame, with the expression of someone deciding exactly how to end it. Gio D'Angelo, Vincent said. The Italians and my organization have been at war for 3 years. Philadelphia Port Territories. A marriage alliance would end the bloodshed. My brain stuttered. You want me to marry him? I want you to save your mother. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. D'Angelo has agreed to the arrangement. He needs connections to my networks. I need peace. Unless you'd prefer I start collecting tonight. There has to be another way. There isn't. He closed the folder. The wedding is in 48 hours. 48 hours. Does the debt clear on the wedding day? Vincent laughed. The sound scraped against the concrete walls. The debt clears when you produce an heir, a child. Biological proof that the alliance is sealed. The air left my lungs. An heir, a baby. I was supposed to. With him. I started to say something. Stopped myself. Swallowed the rest. Vincent watched me with the patience of a man who had all the time in the world and knew I had none. You have 24 hours to decide. I didn't remember driving home. One moment I was walking out of the warehouse. The next I was sitting on my bathroom floor at 4 a.m, back against the cold tile, phone in my shaking hands. I typed his name into Google. Gio D'Angelo, Philadelphia. The first image loaded and my stomach dropped. 57 years old. The articles said head of the D'Angelo crime family since he was 32. His wife died 7 years ago. No children. I scrolled. Another photograph. Him walking out of a courtroom. Charges dismissed. The suit fit him perfectly. The jaw could cut glass. The eyes? I zoomed in. Eyes that had never in his entire life been afraid of anything. I was supposed to marry that man in 48 hours. Get pregnant by that man. I laughed. The sound bounced off the bathroom tiles, high and thin. 27 years old. Pediatric ER nurse. About to be sold to a Mafia don who looked at cameras the way most people looked at insects. The laughter died in my throat. I scrolled back to the first image, studied his face, tried to imagine standing next to him, tried to imagine his hands on me. My brain produced static. You produce an heir, or your mother pays the price. I closed my eyes. The sun was coming up when I finally made the call. I watched the light crawl across my bathroom ceiling and listened to the phone ring once, twice. Vincent picked up on the third ring. I'll do it. 3 words. My entire life, signed away in 3 words. I hung up before he could respond, walked to the bathroom mirror, looked at myself. Scrubs, dark circles deep enough to hold water, hair that hadn't seen a brush in 2 days. I was supposed to marry that man. I hadn't even had time to live my own life yet, and I was supposed to walk down an aisle toward Gio D'Angelo, 57, silver hair, eyes that had never known fear, and somehow convince him to put a baby in me. I'm going to die, I said to my reflection. It didn't disagree. The dress arrived at 6 a.m. No note, just a garment bag hanging on my apartment door and a pair of heels I'd never be able to walk in. I fell twice practicing in my kitchen. By the time the car came, I'd accepted that I'd either make it down the aisle or die trying. The cathedral in South Philly was old stone and stained glass, full of people I'd never met. I walked alone. My mom was too high to come. I'd called 3 times, and the 3rd time she'd slurred something about being proud of me before the line went dead. The aisle stretched forever. I kept my eyes on the marble floor, counting my steps, willing my ankles not to betray me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't fall, don't fall, don't. I looked up. Gio D'Angelo stood at the altar. The photographs hadn't prepared me. He was taller than I'd expected, broader, and his eyes moved from my feet to my hands to my face, pausing on each. Silver hair swept back, dark suit, white shirt, hands clasped in front of him, perfectly still. I tripped on the hem. My arms pinwheeled. I caught myself on a pew, heart slamming, face burning. When I looked up, his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Great. My future husband found my humiliation entertaining. I made it to the altar without further disaster. The officiant spoke words I didn't hear. My mouth had gone dry. I couldn't swallow. The ring Gio slid onto my hand was cold and heavy and fit perfectly, which meant Vincent had given him my measurements. They'd been planning this long before I ever got that phone call. I do. It came out as a whisper. Gio's I do was clear, steady, bored. Then the officiant said we could kiss. Gio leaned down. His hand found my jaw. Warm, calloused, sure. He tilted my face up and pressed his lips to mine for exactly 2 seconds. I had no idea what to do with my mouth. I just stood there, frozen, gripping his lapels because my knees had stopped working. When he pulled back, his eyes dropped to my hands fisted in his jacket. One eyebrow lifted. At the reception, Gio sat beside me at the head table. He didn't speak to me or look at me, just accepted handshakes, checked his phone, and angled his body toward the exit. His cologne hit me, dark, woodsy. My stomach clenched. Then his phone rang. He answered, listened, stood up. I'll be back. I reached for my champagne glass just to have something to do with my hands. That's when I noticed them. 4 men positioned around the ballroom, not mingling, not eating, just standing at the exits, hands clasped, watching me. I set the glass down, stood up slowly, smoothing my dress. The man nearest the side door shifted his weight, not toward me, just enough to block the path. I sat back down. I wasn't a bride at this reception. I was an asset being guarded. The smiling strangers, the champagne, the flowers, none of it was for me. It was set dressing, and they were making sure I didn't leave. 40 minutes. I sat there for 40 minutes, pulse hammering, watching his men watch me. When Gio finally returned, I saw the blood on his French cuffs first. Dark spots on white fabric. He didn't explain, just put his hand on the small of my back and walked me out. The penthouse was silence and locked doors. He led me down a hallway without speaking. The blood on his cuffs caught the light every time his arm swung. The master bedroom. His bedroom. He walked in ahead of me and started undressing. Jacket on the chair. Cufflinks on the nightstand. The ones with blood on the edges. Red still wet against the silver. Then he unbuttoned his shirt, pulled it off, dropped it on the floor. I saw the tattoos for the first time. Dark ink crawling across his shoulders, up the side of his neck. Scars underneath. A puckered circle below his collarbone. Bullet wound. A long white line across his ribs. Knife. He walked into the bathroom, closed the door. The shower turned on. He'd undressed on our wedding night the way a man undresses alone. I stood there in my wedding dress, trembling. My eyes landed on his shirt crumpled on the floor, the shoulder holster tangled in the fabric, the beretta still in its leather. I picked it up, heavier than I expected. Cold. My hands shook. I'd held scalpels and IV needles and the tiny fingers of children who didn't make it through the night, but never this. My finger found the trigger guard. I didn't know enough to check the magazine. I caught my reflection in the window. Wedding dress, bare feet, gun in both hands, arms trembling. I tried to look threatening. I looked ridiculous. The shower stopped. The bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out. Gio stepped through, tying a towel around his waist, water still running down his chest, silver hair slicked back from his face. He saw me. His mouth curved into a slow smile, one that reached his eyes for the first time all day. Wrong move, Piccola. Guest room. Door closed, back pressed against the wood. My hand went to my neck, the spot where his mouth had been. My pulse was still hammering there. 3 seconds. I'd lasted 3 seconds before my body surrendered. 3 seconds of his mouth on my skin and I'd arched into him, given him more, proven exactly how little control I actually had. I was supposed to be the one seducing him. I caught my reflection in the mirror across the room. Wedding dress, bare feet, red mark blooming on my neck. Okay. I pushed off the door. I need a plan. I pulled out my phone. Typed with shaking fingers. How to seduce an older man. The first result was a WikiHow article. Cartoon illustrations. Step 1. Make eye contact and smile warmly. I threw my phone on the bed. I'm going to die. Day 1. Operation. Seduce the Mafia Don. I'd found his closet while he was in his office. Rows of white dress shirts, all identical, all pressed. I took one, put it on. Nothing underneath but underwear. I'd also prepared a line. Rehearsed it in the bathroom mirror 11 times until it came out smoky and low. Hope you don't mind. Mine were all dirty. Gio walked into the kitchen. Hope you're dirty. The words left my mouth. My brain caught up half a second later. The espresso machine hissed into the silence I had created. I mean, heat flooded up my neck. Mine. My shirts. They're dirty. Are dirty. In the laundry. Which is why I gestured at his shirt on my body, which somehow made everything worse. Gio looked at me. His eyes moved to the open collar, where my pulse was jumping at the base of my throat, down to where the hem hit my thighs, back up. He looked at that pulse point for 2 full seconds. Then his face went flat. He made his espresso, took his cup, and left. I stood alone in the kitchen, wearing his shirt, replaying Hope You're Dirty on a loop. He'd seen everything, heard everything, and chosen to give me nothing back. That was almost worse. Day 3. New strategy. My grandmother's scallion pancakes. I'd made them 100 times. Funeral potlucks, late nights in nursing school, Sunday mornings when missing her felt like a physical weight in my chest. The recipe was muscle memory. I had the batter ready when Gio walked through the kitchen. He didn't stop, just passed behind me to get to the refrigerator, but his arm brushed my shoulder, and suddenly I couldn't remember if I'd added 1 cup of flour or 2. I added another half cup, just in case. The pancakes came out dense and undercooked, doughy in the middle, burnt on the edges. I served them anyway because retreat was not an option. Gio sat at the table, looked at the plate, looked at me. What is this? Scallion pancakes. Are they supposed to taste like this? Yes. He picked up his fork. He didn't break eye contact while he chewed. Not once. His jaw worked steadily, deliberately, like he was making a point. Like eating my terrible food was a statement, not a courtesy. He swallowed, took another bite, still watching me. I couldn't look away, couldn't move. Something about the way he was eating, methodical, intense, refusing to acknowledge that the pancakes were awful, made my skin prickle. He finished the whole plate, every bite. Then he drank 3 glasses of water in a row, still holding my gaze over the rim. My grandmother's recipe, I managed. Family tradition. Your grandmother was trying to kill people. It's an acquired taste. He pushed back from the table and left, but he'd finished the plate, every last bite. I made it for him. He ate it. End of transaction. It didn't feel like kindness. It felt like possession. Day 5. Desperate measures. Sports bra, tiny shorts, yoga mat in the living room, right where he'd have to walk past to get to his office. I heard his footsteps in the hallway, positioned myself. Hands and feet on the mat, hips in the air, back arched. He walked in. I looked at him upside down through my legs. My hair fell in my mouth. I blew it out. It fell back in. I blew harder, made a spitting sound. The hair stuck to my lip. I tried to look seductive while removing hair from my tongue with my fingers. Gio laughed. Not a chuckle, not a smirk. An actual laugh. Short, surprised, real. His eyes crinkled at the corners. His jaw relaxed. The hard lines around his mouth softened into something almost human. I froze upside down, hair still stuck to my lip, watching him. My chest squeezed. My pulse stuttered. I wasn't prepared for what that laugh did to me. Then it was gone. His face closed back up. He walked past me to his office without another word. But I'd heard it. I'd made Gio D'Angelo laugh. I stayed on the yoga mat for a long time, trying to figure out why that felt bigger than anything else I'd done all week. The next morning, I opened the kitchen cupboard and stopped. Oolong tea, the brand from Chinatown that I'd mentioned exactly once, 3 days ago, while serving him burnt pancakes. I'd said my grandmother used to drink it. I'd said I missed the taste. He hadn't responded, hadn't even looked up from his plate. But here it was, in the cupboard, waiting for me. I held the box for a long time. My throat tightened, something warm spread through my chest. Then the warmth curdled. I'd mentioned it once, offhand, 3 days ago, and he'd remembered. He'd gone out, or sent someone out, and bought it, without saying a word. He was listening, to everything, cataloging every detail I let slip. I looked up at the camera in the corner of the kitchen. Its red light blinked. The tea felt less like a gift and more like a message. I pay attention. I know what you want before you ask. You are watched. You are known. I put the box back in the cupboard. My hands weren't steady. That night, I made perfect pancakes. Grandmother's recipe, done right this time. Crispy, flaky, golden brown. I carried one to where Gio sat reading contracts in the living room. Open. He looked up. I can feed myself. You owe me, after that first batch. His eyes narrowed, but his mouth opened. I placed the pancake on his tongue. Warm, soft. My fingertips brushed his lip as I pulled back. His lips closed around my fingers. Heat shot up my arm, down my spine, pooled low in my stomach. His mouth was warm. His breath was warm. Everything was warm and I couldn't move. His hand caught my wrist. What are you doing, Laura? Voice lower now. The amusement gone. Feeding you. His grip tightened. His thumb pressed against my pulse point, and I knew he could feel how fast my heart was racing. His eyes held mine, dark, searching, dangerous. Then he released me. I walked back to the kitchen on legs that didn't feel steady. Behind me, I heard pages turning. Too fast. He wasn't reading. Just doing something with his hands. I went back to work on Monday. Took my own car. Ignored the 3 calls from Gio before I even reached the parking lot. The hospital smelled the same. Antiseptic and exhaustion, and the particular staleness of air that's been recycled too many times. I badged in, grabbed my charts, and tried to remember what my life felt like before wedding dresses and empty guns and men who bought tea without being asked. Maya Ortiz was awake when I checked on her, still small, still pale, still coloring with the purple crayon. Nurse Laura. She held up the page. Another house, this one with flowers. You were gone forever. I know, I'm sorry. Did you get married? I stopped adjusting her IV. I did. Is he nice? The question sat in my chest. I thought about Gio eating terrible pancakes, buying oolong tea, laughing at me with hair stuck to my lip. I thought about the blood on his cuffs. He's complicated. Complicated means he loves you, but he's bad at it. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was reciting something she'd heard. That's what my mom says about my dad. I made it to the supply closet before the tears came. 4 minutes. I gave myself 4 minutes to fall apart, face pressed against a shelf of gauze pads, shoulders shaking. Then I fixed my face and went back to work. By 11 p.m., my shift ended. 4 men in dark suits stationed around the hospital exits. I recognized them from the wedding reception, Gio's men. I drove home with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. Stormed into the penthouse. Found him in the living room reading contracts. You put guards on me? I was furious. I was also exhausted, and a yawn cracked through the words. He looked up. When's the last time you slept? Don't change the... Another yawn. The subject. When's the last time you ate? I eat fine. You say that a lot. He set down the contract. Sit. I'm not a dog. Sit down, Laura. Not a request. An order. His voice had dropped into something that didn't leave room for argument. I sat. He walked to the kitchen. I heard cabinets opening, water running, the click of the stove. 10 minutes later, he set a plate in front of me. Pasta. Simple. Perfect. Eat. I'm not hungry. I didn't ask. He sat across from me, watching. You came home from my hospital looking half dead. That's unacceptable. Eat. I ate. Fast, graceless, too tired to perform. He watched every bite with the focus of a man, inventorying what belonged to him. The guards stay, he said when I finished. Fine. I was too exhausted to fight. But if I see one near my patients, I'll... My head was on my arms. My eyes were closing. The last thing I heard was his chair scraping back. I was being lifted. My body registered it before my brain caught up. The sudden shift in gravity, arms under my knees, behind my back, something hard pressing against my ribs, his holster. His cologne filled my nose, dark and woodsy, and I couldn't open my eyes, but I could feel him carrying me down the hallway. I should say something, should tell him to put me down. My head fell against his chest instead. I woke up in my bed, still in scrubs, water and 2 ibuprofen on the nightstand. No tucked blanket, no tender arrangement. Just moved, managed, handled. The next morning I stumbled into the kitchen wearing his shirt. Not a tactic, just the nearest thing I'd grabbed. He was at the counter with his espresso. Thank you for carrying me. He didn't look up. You weigh nothing. Eat more. That's not a compliment. It wasn't meant to be. I reached past him and took his espresso, sipped it, made a face. Too strong, too bitter. He watched me grimace, said nothing. The next morning, a separate cup was waiting on the counter. Weaker, with sugar. I hadn't told him how I liked my coffee. My phone buzzed during my lunch break. Unknown number. How is married life, Miss Xeng? Vincent Lau's voice slithered through the speaker. I stepped into an empty hallway. Your mother asks about you. She still has 8 fingers. He paused. I hope the good news comes soon. The line went dead. 8 fingers. Still. For now. I shoved the phone in my pocket and went back to work. That evening, I made my grandmother's scallion pancakes, the real ones this time, crispy, flaky, golden brown, the way she taught me before she died. Not a seduction, not a performance, just a meal for 2 people who happened to live in the same penthouse. I found candles in a drawer and lit them before I could overthink it. He walked in, stopped in the doorway. Sit down, I said, before it gets cold. He sat. First bite. His shoulders dropped half an inch. Tension release so small I'd have missed it if I hadn't been studying his body for weeks. Better than last time, he said. That's a low bar. You cleared it. I watched him eat, methodical, focused, taking what I'd made for him without comment or complaint. Do you actually live here? I asked. Or just keep your suits here? His fork paused. What do you mean? No photos. No mess. No signs that a human exists here instead of an operating system. He took another bite, chewed slowly. I work, I sleep, I eat. That's living. That's surviving. Different thing. His eyes met mine across the table, held. When's the last time someone cooked for you? I asked. Not staff. Someone who wanted to. The candles flickered between us. He turned his fork over once, twice, without eating. My wife. His voice was lower. 7 years ago. Before she died. I hadn't known. No one had told me. You remind me of her. He picked up his glass. She couldn't cook either. I laughed. Startled, bright, surprised out of me. His face crinkled. Almost a smile. I cleared the plates. He picked up a towel and started drying without being asked. Sleeves rolled to his elbows. Towel over his shoulder. 2 people doing dishes in a kitchen that had probably never seen this before. Last plate. Our fingers overlapped on the porcelain. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. His hand came up. His thumb traced my jaw. Slow. I stopped breathing. He dropped his hand. Good night, Laura. He walked out. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Photo attachment. I opened it. My mother. Recent. Thinner than I'd ever seen her. Bruised around the eyes. One hand bandaged. Thick gauze, wrapped past the wrist. No text. Just the image. The dinner. The dishes. The moment at the sink. All of it evaporated. Vincent's voice echoed in my head. I hope the good news comes soon. I closed the photo. Walked to my closet. Stared at the black dress I hadn't worn yet. The pancakes. The yoga. The comedy of errors. None of it was fast enough. My mother was bleeding while I was making a Mafia Don laugh. I pulled the dress off the hanger. Time to escalate. The reading glasses were designer. I'd found them in a boutique near the hospital. The note took 17 drafts. For the squinting, Nano. I left them by his espresso and retreated to the kitchen island with my coffee, watching. He walked in, saw the box, read the note. His palm hit the table so hard the espresso cup jumped. Brown liquid bled across his paperwork, soaking into contracts. Keep pushing, Laura. I held his gaze over the rim of my cup. I'm terrified. Walked away before he could see the grin I was biting back. But underneath the teasing, my phone was heavy in my pocket. The photo I couldn't stop seeing when I closed my eyes. My mother's face, gaunt and bruised, her hand wrapped in gauze. The pancakes weren't fast enough. Tonight I'd fix that. The black dress fit perfectly. Silk, plunging neckline, slit to mid-thigh, backless. I'd bought it with the cash Gio had left on my dresser, hidden it in my closet for 3 days, waiting. I did my makeup in the bathroom mirror, lined my eyes, darkened my lips, pinned my hair up so my neck was bare. When I walked to the front door, Gio was already there, blocking it. His eyes traveled down my body, slowly, deliberately, his jaw tightened with each inch. You're not leaving dressed like that. Are you planning to stop me? He moved fast, pinned me against the door. His hand found my throat, not choking, holding, his thumb pressed against my pulse point, pupils blown wide in the dim hallway. 11. His voice dropped low. Not a minute later. He held me there for 3 seconds. 4. His breath warm on my face, his body hard against mine. Then he released me, stepped back. I smoothed my dress, held his gaze. I'll be home by 11. I walked past him and out the door. My legs were shaking. I didn't let him see. The gala was crystal chandeliers and champagne and hospital donors in formal wear. I moved through the crowd, accepting compliments, shaking hands. Dr. Reeves found me by the bar, young attending. Charming smile. Laura, you look incredible. Thank you. He stepped closer. I touched his arm, held it a beat too long, watched his pupils dilate. Then I caught myself. Performing, running the old playbook, the one I'd pulled out to make Gio jealous. I dropped my hand, opened my mouth to redirect, and saw him. Across the room, dark hair, sharp features, expensive suit, one of Gio's captains. I'd seen him at the wedding, at the reception, always hovering in the background. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was a hospital charity event. He raised his glass to me, smiled. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I smiled back, excused myself from Dr. Reeves, spent the rest of the night tracking the captain's movements through the crowd. He never approached me, just watched, and smiled. The penthouse was dark when I got home, just the kitchen light spilling into the hallway. I found Gio at the counter, shattered whiskey glass on the marble, blood and amber liquid pooling together. What happened? He didn't answer, just stared at his bleeding hand. I went to him without thinking. First aid kit from the cabinet. Needle and thread, antiseptic. Sit. He sat. I cleaned the wound, deep cut across his palm, glass still embedded. I pulled out the shard with tweezers, felt him flinch, kept working. 6 years, Gio. His eyes lifted to mine. You've been funding my hospital for 6 years. I threaded the needle. Anonymous donations, shell corporations, but the money all traces back to you. His jaw hardened. Tax write-off. Maya Ortiz is alive because of that money. I pushed the needle through skin. He didn't flinch this time. She's 7, she has leukemia, and she asked me if my husband was nice. His jaw worked. The stitch pulled taut under my fingers. What did you say? Complicated. And what did she say? I tied off the stitch, started another. Complicated means you love someone but you're bad at it. His eyes snapped to mine. Then he pulled me into his lap. The kiss was brutal. 5 weeks of denial cracking open. His mouth on mine, hungry, demanding. I kissed him back, not performing, not strategizing, just wanting. My hands found his shirt, his collar, his neck, his jaw, everywhere I could reach. His hands gripped my hips hard enough to bruise. I didn't care. He caught my wrists, pinned them behind my back. Not when I can't stop. I slapped him. Hard. His lips split. The crack echoed through the kitchen. He yanked me flush against him, his bloody lip inches from mine. Careful, wife. Maybe I'm done waiting. His phone rang. He answered. Rapid Italian. I sat in his lap, shaking, his blood on my fingers, my heart slamming against my ribs. He hung up, lifted me off his lap, set me on my feet, turned toward the door. Wait. He stopped. One of your men was at the gala tonight. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Watched me the entire time. Dark hair, sharp face, smiled at me across the room. His shoulders went rigid. He wasn't supposed to be there, was he? Gio turned. His eyes found mine. Cold now. Calculating. Which one? I described him. The suit. The way he held his glass. The smile that didn't reach his eyes. His knuckles went white around the doorframe. Go to bed, Laura. He walked out. I stood in the kitchen, legs unsteady, his blood drying on my fingers, and realized I'd forgotten about Rachel. Forgotten about Vincent's call. Forgotten about the photo, the ticking clock, all of it. For 20 minutes, the only person in my head was him. The only thought. Come back. I gripped the counter. The plan was broken. I wasn't performing anymore. I hadn't been for weeks. And that terrified me more than anything Vincent Lau could do. The phone rang at 3 a.m. I was already awake, staring at the ceiling. I answered on the second ring. This is Detective Morales with Philadelphia PD. I'm sorry to inform you that your mother, Rachel Xeng, was found deceased earlier this evening. The words came through the phone. I heard them. I didn't feel them. There was a delay between his voice and my brain, and in that delay, I stared at the ceiling and waited for the hit to arrive. It didn't. Where? Kensington. Alley behind a convenience store on Allegheny Avenue. He paused. Apparent fentanyl overdose. I'm very sorry for your loss. I thanked him. Hung up. Sat on the edge of my bed with the phone still in my hand. My hands weren't shaking. My eyes were dry. 15 years. I'd given her everything I had since I was 16. It wasn't enough. Gio appeared in my doorway. Pajama pants, bare chest, tattoos stark against his skin in the dim light from the hallway. He didn't ask what happened. He just looked at my face and knew. He crossed the room and sat beside me on the bed, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body, but he didn't touch me, didn't try to hold me or offer comfort or say any of the useless things people say when someone dies. I knew this would happen. My voice came out flat, clinical, the voice I used when I called time of death in the ER. I always knew, and I married you anyway because I thought. The words caught in my throat. 15 years. It wasn't enough. It's never enough. His voice was low, rough. Family takes everything you have, then they ask for more. He sat there until dawn, didn't move, didn't say anything else, just stayed, solid, warm, present. When I finally lay down, he stayed sitting at the edge of my bed, his back to me, watching the door. The funeral was 3 days later, rain coming down in sheets, turning the cheap cemetery in northeast Philly into a mud pit. The casket was plain wood. I stood at the edge of the grave with an umbrella I'd forgotten to open, water soaking through my black dress, watching the men lower my mother into the ground. My aunt and uncle stood on the opposite side in their matching black coats. They hadn't spoken to me since the wedding. They hadn't called when they heard about Rachel. They didn't look at me now. Halfway through the service, I looked up. A black SUV was parked 50 yards away under an elm tree. I couldn't see him through the rain, but I knew. 4 men stood beside it, facing outward, hands clasped. His men. They didn't approach. They didn't intrude. They just stood there in the downpour, refusing to let me bury my mother completely alone. I looked back at the grave. Nobody hugged me. Nobody stayed. The casket reached the bottom. Dirt hit wood. Thud, thud, thud. I turned and walked back to the car alone. 50 yards away, under an elm tree, Gio watched her. Rain drumming on the roof of the car he refused to sit in, because he needed to see her, needed to know she was still standing. She looked small from here, small and straight-backed and completely alone. She was going to leave. She'd pack tonight, be gone by morning, and he'd have no right to stop her. He should let her go. He adjusted his cufflinks and stayed under the tree. Back at the penthouse, whiskey on the table. I was still in the black dress from the funeral, still damp. Gio sat across from me. It wasn't an overdose. I looked up. My people confirmed it an hour ago. The scene was staged. The needle was inserted post-mortem. My fingers tightened around my glass. My jaw locked. Who? Sal Ferraro, one of my captains. He opposes the alliance, wants the war to continue. Killing your mother was supposed to break the marriage and collapse the ceasefire. My pulse was pounding now. My skin felt hot. He killed my mother because I married you? Yes. I held his gaze. I want to be there when you find him. Guest room. Empty suitcase on the bed. I could pack right now. Walk out. Never look back. I sat down next to the suitcase instead, stared at my hands. $400,000. A wedding dress. A stranger's ring on my finger. I had sold my whole life to keep her safe. And she died anyway. Every 16-hour shift since I was 16. Every paycheck that vanished into her habit. Every apology I made for her. Every lie I told for her. Every piece of myself I traded away. And the math came out to a plain wood casket in the rain. The laugh came out of me wrong. Cracked in the middle. I married a Mafia don for nothing. My chest caved in around the thought. I pressed my fist against my sternum and breathed through it, the way I'd taught 100 grieving parents to breathe in 100 hospital hallways. In for 4, hold, out for 4. The deal was dead. The debt was dead. She was dead. I was free. So why was I still here? I thought about Gio under the elm tree, standing in the rain for 2 hours, not asking me to stay, just refusing to let me stand there alone. I thought about Maya asking if my husband was nice. I thought about the way my mother used to braid my hair before everything went wrong, back when I was young enough to believe she could get better. Nobody had ever chosen me. Not once. I was the one who paid, who fixed, who stayed. He stood in the rain. I closed the suitcase, pushed it under the bed, walked barefoot down the hallway toward the light spilling from under Gio's study door. I didn't knock, just turned the handle and walked in, closed the door behind me, locked it. Gio looked up from his desk, whiskey in hand, half-empty bottle beside him, exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes, his mouth, the set of his shoulders, shirt open at the collar, tie gone. The light from his desk lamp threw half his face into shadow. My mother's dead. I stopped in front of his desk. The deal died with her. I could walk out that door right now. I know, but I'm not leaving. His hand tightened on the glass, knuckles going white. And it's not because of the baby. I took a step closer. It stopped being about the baby somewhere around the time you put oolong tea in the cupboard, or carried me to bed and left ibuprofen on the nightstand, or ate my terrible pancakes and drank 3 glasses of water without saying a word. My voice caught. I don't know when exactly it stopped. I just know it did. He didn't move, just watched me with those dark eyes, waiting. Teach me. Teach you what? Everything. I put my hands on his desk, leaning forward. How to survive in your world. How to kill the man who murdered my mother. How to stop being the person everyone uses and nobody chooses. His jaw tightened. If I teach you, there's no going back. You don't get to be innocent anymore. I killed a man 2 years ago, Gio. The words hung in the air between us, his hand stilled on his glass. Philadelphia Children's. Pediatric ward. A father came in high, pupils blown, sweating, violent. He grabbed a scalpel off the crash cart and went for room 6. I kept my voice steady, clinical. There was a 4-year-old girl behind that curtain. Acute leukemia. Too weak to run. He was completely still now. I told him I could help him. Calm him down. Men like that always say yes when you offer relief. I held his gaze, so I helped him. Into a bed. Into sedation. And then I made sure his heart understood the conversation was over. You stopped it. 90 seconds. The coroner signed off without a second look. Nobody questions the nurse who was trying to help. Gio stared at me. Then he laughed. Low, dark, genuine. The sound filled the study. You killed him. I protected that child. I'd do it again tomorrow. You're dangerous, Laura Xeng. I burned scallion pancakes and fell off my heels at my own wedding. I crossed my arms. I'm the least dangerous person in this room. No. He stood, walked around the desk toward me. You're not. He moved to a cabinet against the wall. Pulled out a key, unlocked it. Rows of guns inside. Handguns, mostly. All oiled, all maintained, all waiting. He selected one and turned back to me. The Beretta. The same one from our wedding night. The one I'd held to his chest with shaking hands. The one that clicked empty when I pulled the trigger. Come here. I walked to him. He moved behind me, pressed the gun into my hands, his chest against my back, his breath warm at my ear. Feel the weight. His voice dropped low. This isn't a scalpel. This is death. Fast. Final. You pull this trigger, someone stops breathing. His hands covered mine, adjusting my grip. His fingers guided mine around the handle, positioning them precisely. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to kill. He pressed his palm against my stomach, straightening my posture. Feet shoulder-width apart. Breathe. I could feel every inch of him against my back, the heat of his body through his shirt, his heart pounding against my shoulder blade, faster than I expected. Aim for center mass. His mouth was inches from my ear. 2 shots. Always 2. Make sure they stay down. I raised my arms, sighted down an invisible target. When you kill someone, you don't hesitate. Hesitation gets you killed. You decide they die, and you make it happen. Click. Click. You've always been a killer, Piccola. His hands tightened over mine. You just had bad aim. My aim was fine. Your gun was empty. He laughed. I felt it vibrate through my spine, warm and dark. I turned in his arms. Our faces inches apart. His breathing changed, ragged now. His hands were shaking where they gripped my waist. I can't. He stopped, his jaw clenched. If you stay in this room, I won't. He couldn't finish. Then don't. His forehead dropped to mine, his eyes squeezed shut. I'm 57 years old. You're 27. I'm supposed to protect you from men who look at you the way I do, not become the worst one. I grabbed his shirt, fisted the fabric, pulled him closer. I don't need protection. I need someone to choose me. My voice cracked. For once in my entire life. Not because I'm useful, not because I settle someone else's debts, because you can't imagine your mornings without me burning breakfast in your kitchen. His hands found my face. Thumbs tracing my cheekbones. His breathing ragged against my mouth. If I touch you, he said, I won't be gentle. I'm not asking you to be gentle. He carried me down the hallway. Through the door I'd never been allowed to enter. His bedroom. Dark furniture, dark sheets, city lights through the windows casting everything in pale gold. He set me on the bed, knelt over me. His hands framed my face. He looked at me the way he had on our wedding night when I held his gun to his chest, except the amusement was gone. What was left made my throat tight. Are you sure? Say my name. Gio. Laura. The R rolled soft against his teeth, his forehead pressed to mine. Laura. Again. He set it against my mouth, against my jaw. Against the spot on my neck where he'd first kissed me, the spot I'd been pressing my fingers to for 6 weeks, trying to remember what it felt like. Now I didn't have to remember. The rest belonged to us. I woke in his bed. Morning light through the windows. His arm heavy across my waist, my head on his chest, rising and falling with his breathing. A mark on my collarbone where his mouth had spent time. My fingers traced the ink across his ribs, the raised edges of old wounds. I knew them already. I'd seen them on our wedding night. But touching them was different. He stirred beneath me. His arm tightened around my waist. I pressed my face into his chest. You're mine now. He pulled me closer. And you're mine. I set it against his skin, quiet enough that I wasn't sure he heard. Which means I protect you too. His breathing stayed steady. His hand traced lazy circles on my back. He didn't know what I meant yet. Didn't know that when I asked him to teach me, I meant every word. He'd find out soon enough. I learned fast. The shooting range was 40 minutes outside the city. Private. Soundproofed. Ours. My first live round went into the ceiling. The recoil snapped my wrists back, and the shot went wild, and my heart tried to exit through my throat. Gio stood behind me with his arms crossed, watching. Again. Second shot. The paper target stayed untouched. Third. Fourth. My shoulders climbed toward my ears with every miss. You're flinching before the shot. He stepped in behind me, his hands closed over mine, warm and steady, pressing my grip back into shape. Your body thinks the gun is the threat. It isn't. You are. Easy for you to say. Nothing about this is easy. His mouth was at my ear. That man in room 6. Were your hands shaking then? No? Why not? I stared down the range at the paper silhouette. There was a child behind the curtain. Then put a child behind the curtain. I breathed out. Squeezed. The hole appeared 2 inches left of center mass. Gio's hands tightened over mine. Something rumbled through his chest against my back. Approval, low and wordless. Again. By the end of the second week, I could put 2 rounds through the same fist-sized circle without thinking. My hands had stopped asking permission. Moving targets next? No. He holstered the Beretta and handed it to me. Grip first. Not yet. If it moves, you let it go. Understood? Understood. The door to the conference room was heavy oak. I pushed it open without knocking. 12 men in suits turned to look at me. Long table, leather chairs, whiskey decanters on the sideboard, Gio at the head, Sal Ferraro 3 seats down on the left, sharp features, narrow eyes, the same smile he'd given me at the gala. Mrs. D'Angelo. Sal's voice was pleasant, dismissive. This is a private meeting. I'm aware. I walked the length of the table. Every eye tracked me. My heels clicked against the hardwood. I stopped at Gio's side and dropped a manila folder on the polished surface. What is this? One of the captains asked. I didn't look at him, kept my eyes on Gio. Open it. Gio picked up the folder, flipped it open. Phone records, photographs, bank transfers. 3 weeks of evidence I'd compiled during sleepless nights in the penthouse, cross-referencing his security footage with public records, tracing patterns until they formed a noose. Page 3, I said. Sal meeting a man I traced to a rival faction within Vincent Lau's organization. Page 7, wire transfers to a shell company in Camden. Page 12. Gio turned to page 12. His jaw tightened. A photograph of Sal leaving the cemetery the morning my mother's body was found, 4 hours before the police were called. The room went still. I'm a nurse. I clasped my hands in front of me. I don't understand your world, but I understand patterns, and traitors are very predictable. Sal's face drained of color. He stood, chair scraping back. This is... Shut up. I still didn't look at him, kept my eyes on Gio. I wanted you to have it all in one place, before you decided what to do with him. Gio turned another page. Another. His knuckles went white around the folder's edge. When he finally looked up at Sal, his eyes were empty, cold. Sal bolted for the door. 2 of Gio's men caught him before he made it 3 steps. They wrenched his arms behind his back, forced him to his knees. Take him to the basement. Gio's voice was flat. I'll be down in an hour. They dragged Sal out. He was shouting something. Protests. Threats. I didn't hear the words. The door closed behind them. The remaining captains sat frozen in their chairs. Gio stood, buttoned his jacket. Looked at each of them in turn. Any threat to my wife, any disrespect, any question of her place at this table is a death sentence. His eyes moved from face to face. Are we understood? 11 men nodded. Gio gestured toward the door. They filed out one by one, casting glances at me as they passed. Recalculating, I saw it in the set of their shoulders, the way they avoided my eyes. The door closed. Gio turned to me. His hand found the back of my neck, pulled me close. Where did you learn to do that? I've been watching you for 9 weeks. His thumb traced my jaw. You're terrifying. I learned from the best. The basement smelled like concrete and bleach. Sal was zip-tied to a metal chair under a single hanging bulb. His lip was split. His left eye was swelling shut. When the door opened and he saw me on the stairs, he laughed. They sent the nurse. I crossed the floor and stopped in front of him. Gio stayed at the base of the stairs, watching, letting me have this. Nobody sent me. Then what do you want, Mrs. D'Angelo? He leaned back as far as the ties allowed. An apology? An answer. My voice came out level. ER level. Calling time of death level. She was 53 years old. She weighed 98 pounds. She never hurt anyone in her life except herself. Why her? She was the cheapest way to break him. Sal's good eye flicked toward Gio. Kill the wife. The family retaliates. Kill the wife's junkie mother? His shoulders lifted. Nobody important dies. The marriage cracks. The war comes back. Simple math. Simple math. My mother's whole life, reduced to the cheapest number on a spreadsheet. I studied his face for a long moment. The split lip, the swelling eye, the smirk he was still trying to hold up underneath it all. You want to know the strange part? I said. I've spent 9 years keeping people like you alive. Overdoses, stabbings, men who came into my ER with other men's blood under their fingernails. I saved every single one, because that was the job. I leaned down until we were eye to eye. You're the first one I'm happy to lose. The smirk died. I straightened, turned, walked back to the stairs, past Gio, my heels even on every step. He's yours. I didn't look back. The hospital parking garage was empty at 11 p.m. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in pale green. My scrubs were wrinkled from a double shift. My feet ached. I dug my keys out of my bag and headed for my car, parked in the corner near the stairwell. 3 men stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. I stopped. Laura Xeng? The one in front tilted his head. Or is it D'Angelo now? My hand slid into my bag. Found the Beretta. The grip was familiar now. D'Angelo. My fingers wrapped around the handle. Who's asking? The man smiled. Friends of Sal's. Thought we'd pay our respects. My hands weren't shaking. I'm going to give you one chance to walk away. The man laughed, reached into his jacket. I pulled the gun. Center mass. 2 shots. He dropped before his hand cleared his holster. I shifted my aim. The second man was reaching for something at his ankle. 2 more shots. He went down. The third man ran. I tracked him with the barrel. Finger on the trigger. He was 20 feet away, then 30, sprinting for the exit. Gio said no moving targets yet. I let him go. The garage was quiet. Just the buzz of the fluorescents and the ringing in my ears. 2 bodies on the concrete, blood pooling under the lights. My breathing was steady. My hands were still. I lowered the gun. Tires screeched. Gio's SUV tore into the garage, headlights cutting through the dim. It skidded to a stop 10 feet from me. He was out before the engine died, gun drawn, eyes scanning for threats. Then he saw me, standing over 2 corpses. Scrubs spattered with blood, Beretta still in my hand. He crossed to me in 3 strides. His hands found my face, my shoulders, my arms, checking for injuries, for wounds, for anything wrong. His breathing was ragged, his pupils blown wide. I'm fine. I holstered the gun. They're not. He pulled me into his arms, kissed me hard enough to bruise. I kissed him back, tasted whiskey and fear and relief. You taught me well. My voice was steady against his mouth. Center mass, 2 shots each. The third ran. He pulled back, looked at me. His hands were still gripping my arms. You're magnificent. My aim got better. He laughed, low and warm against my lips. The cleanup crew arrived 10 minutes later. 4 men in dark clothes, moving efficiently, not asking questions. They wrapped the bodies in plastic, sprayed something on the concrete, worked in silence. Gio's lieutenant approached us. Middle-aged, gray at the temples, one of the men who'd nodded in the conference room. Mrs. D'Angelo. He glanced at the bodies being loaded into a van. Impressive shooting. I looked at him. Tell the one who ran something for me. He waited. Next time someone comes for me, I won't leave witnesses. His eyebrows lifted. He looked at Gio, then back at me. Nodded once. I'll make sure he gets the message. He walked away. Gio's hand tightened on my waist. His fingers dug into my hip. The hotel conference room smelled like old money and older grudges. Italians on the left, Chinese on the right. 3 years of war visible in the rigid postures and the hands that stayed too close to jacket pockets. Vincent Lau sat at the head of one side. The last time I'd seen him, he was telling me my mother was running out of time. Gio sat at the head of the other. I walked in beside him. Not behind, beside. Murmurs rippled through both sides of the room. My heels clicked against the marble. I took the empty chair at Gio's right hand and folded my hands on the table. Gio stood. My wife was attacked last night. His voice carried through the room without effort. 3 men, loyal to a traitor in my own organization. The murmurs died. She killed 2 of them herself. The 3rd is being hunted. The traitor has been handled. I felt Vincent's eyes on me. I turned my head and met his gaze. He was studying me. The same calculating expression he'd worn in that Chinatown warehouse. But there was something else underneath it now. I held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then I looked away. The alliance holds. Gio's hand found my shoulder, squeezed once. Anyone who threatens it deals with both of us. The room was quiet. Vincent Lau inclined his head. A small gesture. Acknowledgement. The meeting broke apart into handshakes and cigar smoke. I moved through the crowd toward the door. Vincent intercepted me by the windows. Mrs. D'Angelo. He inclined his head. Married life suits you. You'd know, you arranged it. His mouth curved. Up close he looked smaller than I remembered. Older. In that warehouse he had filled the whole room. Now he barely filled his suit. I confess, I expected the nurse to last a month. His eyes moved over my face, recalculating. Perhaps 2. Instead, here you are, killing hitmen and sitting at the head table. I chose well. You chose a payment. I kept my voice pleasant. Conference room pleasant. And since we're reminiscing, my mother's hand. The bandage. Weeks before she died. His expression flickered. Sal staged the death, but the hand was your collection method. Your message. Business, Vincent said. Nothing personal. Funny, that's what Sal said. I stepped in closer, close enough to lower my voice. He said it right before I walked out of the room he never walked out of. Vincent went very still. The debt died with my mother. The alliance stands because my husband and I want it to stand. I smiled at him. Pray we keep wanting it. I walked past him toward the door. My heels were steady. My hands were steady. Behind me, for the first time since a warehouse in Chinatown, Vincent Lau had nothing to say. Maya Ortiz was coloring when I walked into her room. Late afternoon light through the window. Her IV pole decorated with stickers the nurses had put on, butterflies, stars, a cartoon frog. She was bent over a coloring book, tongue poking out in concentration, filling in a picture of a castle with purple and gold crayons. Hey, you! She looked up, smiled. Then her head tilted. You look different. I pulled a chair up to her bed. Different how? She studied my face. 7 years old, bald from chemo, tubes running into her arm, eyes that saw too much. You look like you decided something. I smoothed her blanket, tucked the edge under the mattress. I did. Was it about the complicated man? My throat tightened. Yeah, it was. Good. She went back to coloring, filling in the castle turrets with careful strokes. Complicated is better than boring. I leaned down and kissed the top of her head. She smelled like hospital soap and grape popsicles. I'll see you next week, Maya. Bring me a purple crayon. This one's almost dead. Deal. I walked out. The penthouse balcony. Night. Philadelphia spread out below us, the Schuylkill River catching city lights, the art museum glowing gold in the distance, traffic crawling along the expressway. The air was cool, spring turning toward summer. I stood at the railing. Gio came up behind me. His arms wrapped around my waist. He pulled me back against his chest. Regrets? I leaned into him, let my head fall back against his shoulder. None. His mouth found my ear. Not even marrying a 57-year-old man with blood on his cuffs? Especially not that. His arms tightened around me. I should have loaded that gun on our wedding night. Would have saved us both a lot of trouble. I laughed. You would have missed everything. I would have missed you. I turned in his arms, faced him, grabbed his collar. You remember what you said our first night? When I had your gun against your chest? I said you'd want me. His forehead dropped to mine. For me, not for a baby. And I was right. I hate that you were right. His mouth curved. I'm always right. You ate pancakes that tasted like drywall and told me they were fine. He laughed. The real one. The one that crinkled the corners of his eyes. His thumb traced my pulse. The spot he'd kissed on our wedding night. The spot that had started everything. Stay, he said. I looked out at the city. Philadelphia. The skyline I'd grown up under. The streets where I'd buried my mother. The parking garage where I'd put 2 men in the ground. I'm not going anywhere. I turned back to him. But Gio? Hmm? The third man is still out there. His jaw tightened. I know. When you find him. I held his gaze. I want to be there. His eyes moved over my face, searching for something. Maybe the woman who'd tripped at her own wedding. The one who'd held an empty gun with shaking hands. She wasn't there anymore. Okay, he said. I kissed him, hard, then pulled back. Teach me moving targets next. His hands tightened on my hips. His mouth curved. Yes, Mrs. D'Angelo. So that's Laura and Gio's story. I want to know what you think. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you want her to burn it all down? Or were you hoping for something softer? Drop a comment and tell me. Do you prefer your dark romance with sharp edges? Or do you want more tenderness, more slow burn, more sweetness between the chaos? And be honest, did you see that parking garage scene coming? Thank you for staying until the end. Seriously. These stories take forever to make, and the fact that you're still here means everything. If you want more like this, morally gray men, women who refuse to stay victims, and endings that leave teeth marks, hit that subscribe button. I've got more coming. Until next time, have a sweet little life.